After your testimony in the first proceeding last year in the spring of 2024, were you ultimately contacted by the defense in this case?
Yes.
When were you contacted by the defense?
I know that I had reached out to you, I believe it was in February of this year, because I think I saw some things in the media and was just wondering what was going on.
Sustained. Just when? Just a date, Dr. Wolfe?
I don't know if I could give a specific date. If I had to estimate, sometime in February or March, probably.
Were you still under contract with the other entity that hired you?
Sustained.
At some point, you and I spoke, correct?
Correct.
And that was, you believe it was February of 2025?
Yes.
Had we spoken at all between the end of your testimony at the proceeding last year and February of 2025?
No, that was the first time.
Did I ask you anything about retaining you?
Not at that time, no.
At some point, subsequent to that initial discussion in February of 2025, did we have another discussion about the potential of retaining you?
Yes.
Tell me about that. When was that?
From what I recall, it was sometime in March, and we were trying to figure out...
Sustained. Next question, please.
Did I ask you if you were available to be retained by the defense?
Sustained.
May we approach?
Okay.
May I inquire?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, Dr. Wolfe. So ultimately in March of 2025, were you hired by the defense?
Yes.
Okay. Were you asked to do anything or to review anything from the Commonwealth and any of their experts in relation to testing that was undertaken by them regarding the Lexus and Mr. O'Keefe?
Yes.
What were you asked to do?
My understanding is that we were asked to review and evaluate the report and analysis conducted by Dr. Welcher.
Did you receive Dr. Welcher's reports?
Yes.
Did you receive his raw data?
Yes.
Did you receive his 140-plus page PowerPoint?
Yes.
And did you undertake a review of that, all of that data, in order to evaluate that data?
Yes.
What methodology did you undertake at that juncture before you began any testing? Just your review process. What methodology did you undertake in terms of your review of his evaluations and his opinions and conclusions?
Well, I think when reviewing his report and his analysis, I look to his opinions, and then I look to what's the basis and the foundation to those opinions, right? How did he ultimately arrive at those final conclusions? So I'm looking for the methodologies that he followed, what testing did he do, what type of experiments, what type of data analysis, ultimately to provide that opinion.
Ultimately, did you prepare a PowerPoint presentation in furtherance of memorializing your review and opinions and conclusions of his evaluation and testing?
Yes.
Did you bring that with you today?
Yes.
Do you have that with you on your computer, or are we going to run the PowerPoint?
It's on this computer up here with me.
With the court's permission, could Dr. Wolfe present his PowerPoint presentation?
Okay.
Dr. Wolfe, do you see what's displayed or presented up on the TV screen?
Yes.
All right. Do you have with you, by the way, just a matter of housekeeping, something called a spotlight?
Yes.
Something that can do whatever spotlight did that?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
I may ask you to employ that, or I may take it from you at some point as we're discussing this. Do you recognize what's on the screen?
Yes.
What is this?
This is my PowerPoint with just the first page, the title.
If we can move to the next slide, please. Describe what we're looking at in this slide.
This is from Dr. Welcher's PowerPoint presentation, slide 121, in which he's indicating that there are lacerations on John O'Keefe's right arm and forearm, and he's indicating in this slide that the location and orientation of the lacerations on John O'Keefe's right forearm and arm are consistent with the geometry and orientation of the right rear taillight of the Reed 2021 Lexus LX 570.
In coming to your opinions and conclusions, and I know this is a mouthful, did you consider the opinions and conclusions of Dr. Welcher in conducting your analysis and your ultimate testing?
Yes.
Did you rely on Dr. Welcher's report and his PowerPoint in reaching your conclusions and opinions ultimately in this case?
I don't know that I relied on it. Certainly, I utilized them to have an understanding of what his basis was for his opinion and what his opinion was. Ultimately, at ARCCA, we did our own independent testing to evaluate that.
So just to be clear, I'm not asking Dr. Wolfe if you agreed with his opinions and conclusions. I'm simply asking, did you rely on those in order to come to your opinions and conclusions? Did you incorporate them?
Sustained is to the floor.
Did you agree ultimately with Dr. Welcher's opinions and conclusions?
Sustained.
You certainly were aware of what his opinions and conclusions were, correct?
The form, Mr. Jackson, on that one.
Were you aware of Dr. Welcher's opinions and conclusions?
Yes.
Are some of those opinions and conclusions represented in your PowerPoint?
Yes.
Are some of them represented on this slide in your PowerPoint?
Yes.
You indicated that this slide indicates that the location and orientation of the lacerations on John O'Keefe's right forearm and arms are consistent with the geometry and orientation of the right rear taillight, correct?
Correct.
Are the injuries to John O'Keefe's arm lacerations?
That would be an opinion from my colleague, Dr. Rentra.
Have you ever heard the phrase abrasion?
Yes.
In your opinion, are the injuries to John O'Keefe's right arm better described as lacerations or abrasions?
I don't have an opinion on that.
Okay. Slide number 2, please. Based on your review of Dr. Welcher's reports and his data, what testing did Dr. Welcher undertake or conduct?
So he did, initially it appeared that he did a static test, if you will, just demonstrating holding his right arm out adjacent to the rear taillights on the right side of an exemplar Lexus to demonstrate his theory of how the arm contacted the taillight.
What is a static test?
So I'm sustaining that. Ask it differently, Mr. Jackson. And I'm going to strike that.
What testing did you note that Dr. Welcher did with regard to this particular photograph? What is a static test?
Well, in a static test, that neither the arm or the vehicle is moving. It's just he's aligning his right arm adjacent to show how his arm aligns to the geometry and the dimensions of the Lexus.
Did Dr. Welcher appear to be wearing similar clothing as John O'Keefe was wearing on January 29, 2022?
Yes.
Was there any significance or purpose for that, in your opinion?
In this test, no.
Did you identify any limitations with regard to this sort of testing undertaken by Dr. Welcher?
Well, it's very basic in that the only thing that this demonstrates is that you can get your right arm to align with the taillight. Beyond that, it doesn't tell you anything with respect to what happens to the arm when it makes contact with the taillight, right? What's the motion of the arm? What's the damage to the taillight? What's the acceleration of the arm? What's the forces of the arm? So it doesn't answer any of those other questions. The only question it answers is, does the arm align with the taillight?
You're aware that John O'Keefe was 6'1", correct?
Correct.
Is the only person, let me ask it a different way. Can only a 6'1" person align their arm with the taillight?
No, the arm is adjustable, so certainly people of different heights could also meet that alignment as well.
Just by pivoting your arm a little bit, right?
Sustain.
How would you describe the ability of somebody 5'7" or 6'3" being able to align their arm with the taillight?
Just changing the orientation and the posture of your arm.
Was there any scientific significance, in your opinion, of this particular test?
Again, other than just demonstrating that it aligns with it, no, nothing beyond that.
Next slide, please. What are we looking at here?
So this is an extracted frame from one of his dynamic tests in which the vehicle is moving at about 2 miles per hour into his arm, making contact with his hand, his forearm, and his elbow.
What is a dynamic test as it relates to a static test?
So that's when something's in motion, and in this instance, it's the Lexus moving at about 2 miles per hour into his arm.
Did Dr. Welcher explain what the purpose of this test was?
From what I recall, I think it was to demonstrate that when his arm makes contact with the taillight, he observed paint transfer in the general location that there were the abrasions or the lacerations on his arm.
Did he appear to paint the taillight?
He did, yes.
Do you see that Dr. Welcher appears to be wearing an orange T-shirt?
Yeah.
Sustained.
What is he wearing?
Appears to be an orange T-shirt.
Is that similar to what was described as John O'Keefe having worn that night on January 29th, 2022?
Yes.
Is there any significance to wearing that T-shirt?
Not that I can think of, no.
Did you note any or identify any shortcomings with this particular test?
Well, much like the static test, again, it leaves the door open to all those questions, right? About, again, doing this at 2 miles an hour doesn't tell you anything about, well, what happens at 10? What happens at 15? What happens at 20? Right? In terms of what are the collision forces? What's the damage? How does the arm move? What would the expected injuries be, right? This dynamic test, as well as the static test, doesn't answer any of those questions for us.
Is this test from Dr. Welcher considered a force calculation?
I'm not aware of him making any type of force calculations or measuring accelerations or anything of that nature, no.
Did Dr. Welcher conduct any testing to determine whether the damage to Ms. Reed's Lexus was consistent with the striking of an arm of a pedestrian?
I'm not aware of any impact testing that he did, no.
Did Dr. Welcher conduct any testing to determine the forces necessary to cause the damage to the taillight of Ms. Reed's vehicle?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Did Dr. Welcher conduct any testing to determine the forces necessary to cause the injuries to John O'Keefe's arm?
No, not that I'm aware of.
Did Dr. Welcher provide any opinions as it relates to the speed of the subject Lexus at the time of the alleged incident?
No, from reviewing his report and his PowerPoint and analysis, I could not find anywhere in it a specified speed or even a range of speeds.
Did Dr. Welcher provide any opinion as it relates to the forces experienced by the taillight in such an impact?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Did Dr. Welcher provide any opinion at all as it relates to the post-impact trajectory or movement, if you will, of John O'Keefe's mass or his body subsequent to the alleged conduct?
No, not that I'm aware of.
Next slide, please. Do you recognize this photograph?
Yes.
What is this?
So this is something that you probably have heard and certainly I've discussed already, but this is looking at the right rear corner of the subject Lexus, specifically in the area of the damaged right taillight.
Did you consider this photograph in coming to your opinions and conclusions?
Yes.
What, if anything, of significance did you note about this taillight other than the fact that it's damaged?
Well, I'm going to jump to the next slide, if you will. So this is now the taillight obviously has been removed from the vehicle. So obviously what's important here is looking at what is the damage that we have to this taillight. What components were damaged in this alleged interaction. So we're looking at the clear diffuser at the bottom is fractured and missing. Same with the ones on the vertical side. The majority of the outer red lens is also missing and fractured. And then on the back side, We also have some damage in terms of some fracturing to that black plastic, and there's also a chunk of plastic missing on the top portion of the taillight as well.
I want to ask you a couple of questions about that diffuser. If you could focus your attention on this area. Describe for the jurors what they're looking at in terms of the diffuser. What is the diffuser?
Right, let me see if this... So the diffusers, right where my mouse is, there's a clear diffuser that runs along the bottom, and then there's another diffuser that runs along here, and then it also goes up vertically. Same here on the bottom one. That also goes up vertically. So this piece was missing and fractured on the bottom, along with the vertical portion. The chrome piece here you can see is also fractured and damaged. And then the kind of the second tier, if you will, that clear diffuser was also fractured and broken on the upper section as well.
Was that of significance to you in your review of the damage to the taillight?
Yes.
Why?
Well, because that tells me that we have to have enough force and energy to break, we talked about earlier that 5mm thick red outer lens. We have to have enough force to be able to get beyond that to now start penetrating into the interior components of the taillight to get to, again, those clear diffusers and certainly cause damage to get induced out the back end of the taillight as well.
May I have just a moment?
Yes.
Dr. Wolfe, did you bring with you an undamaged taillight exemplar?
Yes. It's up here with me.
It's up there. Oh, I was just looking for it.
Yep.
Thanks for nothing. Describe what it is that you brought with you.
So I brought a two-part assembly. So what I did is I 3D printed a bracket so that I could mount the lift gate taillight assembly as well as the quarter panel taillight assembly.
And these are undamaged in sort of manufacturing specs, correct?
Correct, yes.
May I have just a moment, Your Honor? You have it with you up there at the witness stand?
Yes.
Could you retrieve that with the court's permission?
Okay.
If you could remain standing for just a quick second. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
May I?
Okay.
Thank you. Dr. Wolfe, you indicated that there was a 5mm area of acrylic covering the diffusers, correct?
Correct.
What I'm knocking on, is that the 5mm acrylic?
Yes, both on the quarter panel part that you just pointed to as well as the lift gate part.
Mr. Jackson, why don't we give that back to the witness and let him do it instead of you?
Sure. Is there... Can you see through that loose material into the diffuser that you've just been describing?
Yes, so as I mentioned earlier, in this area here, there's a diffuser that's running along the bottom.
So, Dr. Wolfe, I'm going to ask you to not have that so close to court reporters.
My apologies.
Use the other side of the witness stand.
Yes, Your
please.
Honor. So along the bottom is the clear diffuser that runs along and then goes up vertically. And then on the second tier, there's also a clear diffuser that runs along here and then goes up vertically. And you might be able to see it through, it kind of looks like there's little dots on it. So that's what I'm referring to in terms of the diffuser that's underneath. And that, again, so you have that outer material that's 5mm roughly in thickness. And then those diffusers are about 3mm in thickness underneath this.
Could you make a determination, and you can go ahead and have a seat. Well, actually, you may not want to. Could you make a determination of the space, the gap between the outer plasticine area, the outer acrylic area, and the internal diffusers? If you could just estimate that gap.
If I had to estimate, I'd probably estimate around an inch, maybe inch and a half.
Okay. You indicated that something was of significance to you in this photograph about the diffusers on the subject taillight, correct?
Correct.
Describe, now that you're holding that, what was it that was of note to you, Dr. Wolfe?
So as I mentioned, we have damage not only to this outer thick portion, but it was enough force and energy to then penetrate deep enough to fracture the underlying diffusers that sit below this outer surface, and certainly enough force then to work its way back through inducement into the backside, and ultimately there was a top portion of the taillight that was also fractured up here.
Was all that significant to you in your review of the subject taillight material?
Yes.
Okay, you can go ahead and put that away.
All right, so that can't go back there because it's in evidence, so why don't you take it and...
I was just going to store it there until he's finished with his testimony, and then we can give it to the clerk magistrate.
Okay.
However you want to do it, Your Honor.
Right.
I have
Do you
no
wanna take
preference.
it? Is he using it still for his testimony?
Not right now.
All right, so, thanks, Jim.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay.